The snow fell thick and silent across the Montana Valley, each flake catching the last pale light of winter afternoon. Samuel Matthews pulled his coat tighter as he guided his horse along the fence line, checking for breaks after the storm. The wind had died down, leaving only the soft whisper of snow against leather and the steady rhythm of hoofbeats on frozen ground. He had been alone on the ranch for 3 years now, ever since his wife Margaret passed from the fever. The silence had become his companion, broken only by the lowing of cattle and the creak of old wood settling in the cold. At 42, Samuel had grown used to solitude, finding peace in the predictable routines of ranch life. But today, something was different. As he rounded the bend near Miller's Creek, he saw them. 3 small bundles lying motionless in the snow beside a woman who knelt between them, her thin frame shaking with more than just cold. Her dark hair hung loose around her shoulders, and even from a distance, Samuel could see the purple bruises marking her face and arms. Samuel dismounted slowly, his boots crunching in the snow. The woman looked up at his approach, her eyes wide with fear. She couldn't have been more than 25, with delicate features marred by fresh injuries. Her dress was torn at the sleeve, and her lips were split and swollen. "Ma'am," Samuel said gently, keeping his distance so as not to frighten her further. "Are you hurt?" The woman's gaze darted between Samuel and the 3 still forms in the snow. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. "Don't take them from me. They're all I have left." Samuel's heart clenched as he realized what he was seeing. 3 newborn babies, wrapped in whatever cloth the woman had been able to find, lay pale and still in the snow. Their tiny faces were blue with cold, their small bodies no longer fighting against the bitter wind. "My name is Samuel Matthews," he said, removing his hat and crouching down several feet away. "I have a ranch just over that ridge." "What's your name?" "Elena," she said, pulling the babies closer to her chest. "Elena Rosario. My husband, he." Her voice broke, and she looked down at the children. "He said I was cursed. Said no woman should birth 3 girls and live to shame him further." Samuel felt anger rise in his chest, hot and fierce. He had seen cruelty before, but this went beyond anything he could comprehend. A man who would beat his wife for bringing life into the world, who would throw her out into a blizzard with 3 newborn children. "Elena," Samuel said softly, "those babies need to be somewhere warm. You need help with those injuries." She shook her head violently. "I won't leave them. I won't let anyone take them away." "I'm not going to take them," Samuel promised. "But we need to get all of you out of this cold." For a long moment, Elena studied his face, searching for deception. Samuel waited, letting her see the sincerity in his weathered features, the genuine concern in his blue eyes. Finally, she nodded, though her grip on the babies never loosened. Samuel approached slowly and carefully lifted Elena to her feet. She swayed, weakened by blood loss and exposure, but managed to keep hold of her children. He helped her onto his horse, then mounted behind her, his arms creating a protective circle around both woman and babies as they rode toward his ranch. The farmhouse was modest but warm, with a stone fireplace that Samuel quickly coaxed to life. He laid blankets on the floor near the hearth and gently helped Elena settle there with her children. In the flickering light, he could see more clearly the extent of her injuries and the peaceful expressions on the babies' faces. "They're beautiful," Samuel said quietly, meaning every word. "What were their names?" "Sophia, Maria, and Isabella," Elena whispered, stroking each tiny face in turn. "I only had them for 2 hours before he said they were a curse upon our house." Samuel busied himself preparing tea and broth, giving Elena space to grieve while staying close enough to help if needed. He had lost children too, he and Margaret, 3 miscarriages that had left them both heartbroken. He understood the fierce love that could exist even in the face of loss. As the evening wore on, Elena began to speak. She told him about her marriage to Miguel Rosario, arranged by her family when she was 17. How he had grown more violent with each pregnancy that ended in miscarriage, convinced that she was deliberately defying God's will by not giving him sons. "When I felt the babies coming this morning, I knew," she said, her voice steady now in the warmth of the fire. "I could feel that there were 3, and I knew they were all girls. I tried to hide it, but when they were born..." She touched her swollen cheek. "He took one look and began hitting me. Said I was a witch who had cursed his seed." Samuel listened without judgment, his own anger at Miguel Rosario growing with each word. But he kept his voice calm and gentle. "What will you do now?" Elena was quiet for a long time, cradling her daughters against her chest. "I have nowhere to go. My family arranged the marriage. They won't take me back, especially not now." Miguel will tell everyone I'm cursed. Samuel stood and walked to the window, looking out at the snow-covered fields that stretched to the mountains beyond. He thought of Margaret, of how she would have welcomed this broken woman and her babies without hesitation. He thought of the empty rooms upstairs, of the crib he had never been able to bring himself to dismantle. You could stay here, he said without turning around. Help me run the ranch. It's too much work for one person anyway. Elena stared at him in disbelief. You don't know me. I'm not your responsibility. Samuel turned back to face her, his expression serious but kind. Maybe not, but I know what it's like to lose children. I know what it's like to be alone. And I know that no woman deserves to be beaten and thrown out into a blizzard for bringing life into this world. I have nothing to offer you, Elena said. No dowry, no family connections. I'm damaged goods, as my husband would say. You're not damaged, Samuel said firmly. You're a mother who protected her children even when the world turned against you. That takes more strength than most people have. Elena looked down at Sophia, Maria, and Isabella, their small faces peaceful in the firelight. What about them? I can't just bury them in frozen ground. There's a spot up on the hill behind the house, Samuel said gently. Margaret is buried there, under the big oak tree. Come spring, when the ground thaws, we'll lay them to rest properly. Together. The word, together, hung in the air between them, carrying weight beyond just the burial arrangements. Elena understood that Samuel was offering her more than just shelter. He was offering her a chance to start over, to build something new from the ashes of her old life. You're coming with me, Samuel said, echoing the words that had brought her here. But this time, they weren't a command born of cruelty. They were an invitation born of compassion, a promise of belonging after a lifetime of being unwanted. Elena nodded slowly, tears streaming down her bruised cheeks. Yes, she whispered, I'll come with you. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in pristine white. Inside the warm farmhouse, two broken souls began the slow process of healing, bound together by loss and the fragile hope of redemption. Samuel added more wood to the fire, while Elena held her daughters close, whispering prayers and promises into the quiet night. In the months that followed, Elena would help Samuel rebuild the ranch into something more prosperous than it had ever been. She would learn to ride and rope, to read the weather and the moods of cattle. Samuel would learn to smile again, to find joy in shared meals and evening conversations by the fire. But that night, as the blizzard raged outside and the fire crackled within, they were simply two people who had found each other in the darkness. Elena finally allowed herself to sleep, knowing that for the first time in years, she was truly safe. Samuel sat watch through the night, guardian over this small family that had appeared out of the storm like an answer to prayers he had never dared to speak aloud. When morning came, the world would be clean and white, ready for new beginnings.